What's going on, YouTube? It's Sergeant Alexander 158 from the Master Assassins Clan, and I'm bringing you some more Division news with some more changes, controls, and updates from Title 6. And it's got a few fixes, and some of the fixes have been pretty good, as you can read along and see that the skills have been fixed. The Hive has now applies the bleed status effect on hit and can now be picked up and placed down anywhere or elsewhere. The charges remain when picked up are saved. Some of these skills are great. I mean, some of these buffs and everything. The post jammers went from 0.1 to 5. The eagle barrel adjustments reduced by 15%. That's a big one that a lot of people have been upset about. I don't have an eagle barrel, so I really don't complain about it too much. But for those of you who do have it, I don't think the nerf is going to be too bad, because now it forces you to use the weapon correctly. So as you can see that the reload is changed. I've highlighted it in red and green, yellow, so you can see throughout the video, you can see the actual changes and which changed to the eagle barrel. And I've done this for all talents throughout the thing. So you just have to kind of slow this video down a little bit just to read it. I'll go over some of the important ones or the newer ones. Most of them we've already talked about, like the Nemesis nerf, the Eagle Barrel nerf. So a lot of those haven't changed. Nothing's new with those. The Chatterbox did get a 50% rate of fire increase, so that's good. Most of the weapons in the game also got buffs. As you see, the kills of weapon refills is up to 75% on the Chatterbox, and that forces you to almost never have to reload with the Chatterbox. I got a little ahead of myself, so I slipped that Eagle Barrel adjustments back in there again. So just in case you missed it, you can go back and see it. But the Chatterbox seems like it's going to be a lot more powerful now with that update and that 75% reload. And that, like I say, that should force you to never, ever really have to reload that weapon. And there you have it again, just so I can make sure that I cover the bases with those two weapons, because those two seem like the biggest buffs and nerfs throughout the game. There will be more, but that one just seems like the Chatterbox really hit home with that nerf and some of that that buff that it put. The Sweet Dreams, I really wasn't a big fan of Sweet Dreams, but it did add more functionality to it, which added melee attacks and it grants 60% more weapon damage, and that's up from 35. Bomber armor supplies. So all this stuff, the pestilence, man, I was really hoping that they did something with the pestilence, and that increase went up from 400% to 1200%. It stayed the same in PvP, which you'll see throughout this video. A lot of the PvP buffs and nerfs pretty much stayed the same. They really didn't do much for PvP, but PvE they did a lot. RPMs for the Merciless is up from 260 to 400, so that's a bit of a nice little change there. The Primer Detonate gains 100%. That's up from 75. Damage to the primer once it's detonated. So there's been some decent changes. Now let's hope and pray that these changes don't need to be nerfed or buffed again once the masses start to complain about it. So like I say, I'm excited to see how some of this stuff works out. I know the Diamondback here, you see that this is a PvE. This has gotten a buff, and it's gained 20%, and that's up from 15. It's only for 3 seconds, but it's a buff nonetheless. Headshot against players are granted to critical hit and provide stack of deep fangs. So, you know, that's new. I like that. Like I said, I like all the buffs. I think, like I say, I think my cries and complaints were heard from the devs when I said that all of this stuff needed to be buffed. All weapons should have a certain bracket that they're in, and then you can just max out from there. And I know they kind of went in that direction. A lot of the weapons just got major buffs, and here you can see a lot of the talents with major buffs too. The biggest one that kind of hurt me the most is the damage to elites, where that was nerfed and now it is not stackable. So I'll say that again. Damage to elites is not stackable. It used to be that you could put damage to elites on as many items and gear pieces as you could, but now you can't. So they knocked it down from 10% to 5%, and you will not be able to stack that damage to elites as much as you could. So that's gonna be a downer for some people. But like I say, with the weapon buffs, something had to be nerfed, and some of the gear talents, they just had to come down. The 249. Here's the weapons right here. This right here is all the weapons receive damage increases, and I like that. I like that they all receive the damage increase, especially the MPX. The MPX is one of my favorite SMGs to use. That got a 68% damage increase, so I was real excited about that. The Carbine 7 was also one that I griped and complained about that needed a buff. I didn't think that weapon should have been put in the game unless it could rival the P416, and it now can. And as you can see, some of the other rifles, the M700, the M16, the M16 got the 68% buff, not the MPX, but the MPX did get a large buff. So we will see if that buff helps the M16. And see if people start to use that more, if that's going to be one of the new metas to go to, or at least one of the weapons to use with the new metas as it comes out. The MP5 definitely needed a buff. The MP7s and MPX, there it is, 38%. I thought it was 68%, but it's only 38%. But nonetheless, that's still a good buff considering the RPMs that it has, and throwing Allegro on that weapon and now having more damage, that's a good one. I like the fact that the UMP 45 got a big buff. So again, if you like this video, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If I missed anything, please shout it out. If you see me online, go ahead and join me. I love to play with you guys. Thank you for the support.